Let's get talking now. Charles Frakoha, IBrandTV analyst, joins us now to make sense of these top stories. Charles, good morning. It's good to have you again. Hello, Charles. Can you hear me? Are you there?
Loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. So let's begin from the first top story there. First is the potential in the carbon market that Nigeria is beginning to see, given the position of the VP yesterday on Tuesday in Abuja, which has directed the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority to develop the country's first carbon market activation plan. And also, they should be able to drive a plan that will engage or drive the engagement as well. So talk to us about the potential in carbon market and why now?
Yes, if you look at it, all nations all over the world are trying to reduce carbon emission because that is where we need to be in terms of climate change and, of course, sustainable development. We produce a lot of carbon, which affects the environment. So this carbon market is a tool being used to incentivize people to ensure that they reduce the usage of carbon in all their economic and daily activities. So if you reduce your carbon emission, then of course you can trade that. You can buy carbon, you can sell carbon, and that will go a long.
I wanted to look at the advantage. Well, I wanted you to land on that note. Once, if you can hear me, before we can talk about the economic incentive for reducing the emissions of, carbon, especially when it comes to the disadvantage of this or the side effect of emission that we have and how we can create a market around it here. Talk to us. Continue on that thought, please.
Okay, so like I said, it is just to create awareness, incentive for people to reduce their carbon emission. And once this emission is reduced, of course, we will be talking about sustainable planet, sustainable Earth. Now, when you emit carbon, you trade it. That is, you are trying to reduce your emission and you get a credit for reducing your emission. So it's just a tool to incentivize people who are trying to make effort to ensure that they reduce their carbon emission in all their daily activities. Creating a carbon market in the country now will go a long way in creating that issue of climate finance, that gap, and we'll see a lot of funding. So when projects are being embarked on, they are looking at green projects that will be reducing less and less of this carbon emission.
But this business, when you talk about carbon market, like you said, of course, where businesses can finance some project or undertake a climate change project as well. So let's look at businesses that you think we can be captured in the conversation. Because we really do not have businesses that have to do with climate change at the moment, but maybe in the consumer goods sector, the fintech sector, and all of that. So what businesses do you think we can bring into conversation when it comes to financing?
Okay, you see, Frank, this is where the issue comes, in terms of awareness. There is carbon trading, climate change, sustainability in every business that anybody wants to embark on. Here in the financial industry, you give out credits for businesses that are environmentally friendly. Is it the computer industry, how they dispose of their electronic waste? So if all these businesses are conscious as to their impact on the environment, then we will see a carbon trade taking place and people are aware. So whatever thing you do today, daily, in your daily activities, your economic activities, all have impacts on the environment. So all the businesses, no matter what it is, SME, big corporations, the sector where the company is, they all have impact directly or indirectly on the environment. So all the businesses, any business you want to set up today, even if you want to construct a project, you want to construct a building, there are climate change issues. There are economic issues, there are sustainability issues. So it is for every business, and everybody has to be aware of climate change and invariably the amount of carbon they are emitting into the environment.
I think it's an interesting conversations, and we really look forward to seeing how these markets develop and how this plan that the VP has also talked about, how it will be captured and how they intend to drive it. It's an interesting conversation in the coming days. Thank you. Let's move to the next. Okay. You still want to, buttress your point? I wanted us to move to, because of our time, let's move on to the next point here. Can you hear me, Charles?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So let's move on to the next story. The African Development Bank has approved a grant of about $525,000 for an online digital hub to serve as a repository of knowledge for fintech entities in Africa. Of course, this is an opportunity that was disclosed during the signing ceremony for, between AFDB Group and Africa Fintech Network, based on the grant to support the Africa Fintech Hub project. So talk to us about the Fintech project and the potential market here, and how we should encourage young people, those who are technological savvy, to come into this space to play. I think this is quite a huge opportunity for Africa.
Yes, you are very correct, Frank. The fintech space, for what we can see, is where to be now. Nigeria, we're talking about cashless policy, we're talking about digitalization, and we are seeing some of the challenges. AFDB supporting that space shows that they are playing a critical role in terms of creating the awareness, deepening the participation of fintech-savvy African youth in that space. We saw what is happening recently in Nigeria in terms of our cash crunch policy, payment system. Now, if the fintech are playing their role, of course, some of the technology, infrastructure in the payment system will have improved beyond what we're experiencing by now. And of course, we'll see a seamless financial transaction day to day. So the African Development Bank coming into this space now, partnering and supporting that space, is a very welcome development. The market, there is potential for the market in the African fintech space. We need it now. And of course, it is not only just deploying technology in the financial payment system, because we know that the financial system affects every other sector in the African economy. And we know once the financial system has an issue, it affects every other sector. So supporting that fintech space now is crucial, is very important, and that's going to ensure a lot of payments making easy in terms of our transaction in the country, on the continent as a whole.
And it's interesting to know that this particular project is targeted at knowledge. It's knowledge-based, where a lot of people perhaps can learn new things from. And yes, we have quite few centers that one can walk into and get knowledge. But particularly, this is addressing the knowledge gap within the fintech space, when you have to look at, in terms of operations of online digital space. It's quite necessary in this scheme. So I think it's the knowledge gap is what we need to talk about, which of course is coming out now. So don't you think so? Hello, Charles. Can you hear me? Hello, Charles. I'm not sure if Charles can hear me, but I was actually talking about
space by the AFDB is a work on the innovation and of course creativity.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yes, you have said it. It's knowledge based. So the AFDB
that's the need to bridge the knowledge gap. Yes.
Yes, it is creating that awareness that people coming to play that market has to have the knowledge, and this knowledge will be gotten by interaction within that space. That is the intellectuals, even those from the academia, the practicing fintech professionals, and of course, the international community. to ensure that creativity, innovation is deployed for knowledge to be deepened. And of course, when the knowledge is deepened, then we'll see improved application of this fintech technology in our day-to-day. And we have said earlier, the African market.
Okay, I guess we'll just have to move on to the next story, Charles. Perhaps this is interesting in the sense that the federal government is putting a hold on 10% hike, tariff hike on non-alcoholic drinks. This is good news. I mean, quite a lot of operators in the industry or in that particular sector over time have called on the federal government to perhaps put a hold on that, or maybe consider reviewing that decision. But now it's coming, as news now that the federal government is rescinding his decision now to go ahead with 10 naira charge on each alcoholic drink per liter, 10 naira per liter on non-alcoholic drink, carbonated drink. So talk to us about this. This is good news, isn't it?
Well, you might say it is good news, but health and diet experts will say, yes, they need to control the consumption of these beverage, non-alcoholic drinks that, of course, causing one health condition or the other, to discourage people. But at the same time, the manufacturers are also looking at it that it is going to be an increase in their cost of production. So there must be a balance. Yes, I am an health enthusiast, and I also support the government when it comes to ways in trying to encourage healthy living. We can't just continue to consume sweeteners, beverages just continuously. So that tax was there to kind of discourage. But at the same time, we're talking of economic issues. Yes, the government reviewing that policy about the 10% of tax is also a welcome development. But I will advise that people should also now be given that knowledge, create that awareness that consuming some of these beverages too frequently might not be too good for their health. Of course, you might say they should kind of reduce the intake. Yes, the economic implication is there for the manufacturers, it will be cost of production for them and all that. But I think, yes, the decision is fine, it's okay, but the health authorities will still need to do a lot of awareness, just like we saw in some other products where they tell you, consuming this product, you are liable to die young. So consuming these sweeteners too much, you are likely to have some health conditions.
Because the excuse that the federal government was imposing 10 naira, all right, or 10% tax hike on non-alcoholic drinks, that was just an excuse, that it really wasn't so important as much as the generating revenue for the government. I mean, that's what some experts are saying. So if you look at that, put side by side with the relief it will bring on manufacturers, do you think it's that important, really?
Yes, that's why I said we need to strike that balance. Yes, there is a need to increase revenue from the government. At the same time, there is a need to ensure that, because one of the duties of government is to protect lives and property. So they need to also check the health conditions of their citizens. So whether you say is just to raise revenue or to check the health implication of our diet. Yes, but there need to be a balance. Yes, government has reviewed their decision, and of course, but I still believe that the manufacturers should still create that awareness. Let the consumers be aware of the implication of consuming so much of these non-alcoholic beverages.
I think one important conversation or point we need to bring into conversation is the fact that the Standard Organization of Nigeria will have to do their job as well. Let's check the content of these non-alcoholic drink, whether they are even up to standard, because sometimes you look at the fact that you look at the health implication and the amount of the content of sugar, the sugar content in every drink. You have to look at that as well. Perhaps you have to bring an SON into the conversation. You also need to bring NAFDAC into the conversation.
NAFDAC,
yes, and other agencies who have oversight functions on some of these manufacturers.
Yes, you are very correct, Frank. The government has to protect its citizen, health-wise, and every other thing you can think of. Yes, looking at the content of some of these non-alcoholic beverages, you will be amazed. But we also need to know, like you have said, the standard. So NAFDAC has to create or drive that process, and of course, they're already doing that now. So the content of the sugar. When we say sugar, we're not just talking about just this one sugar we know. There are different types of sugar: lactose, sucrose, maltose, and saying that the content in those non-alcoholic beverages are not that is going to have a negative impact on the health of Nigerians.
It's all right. Now let's move on to the last story. Perhaps this is also quite an interesting one. In a bid to facilitate a seamless parking experience across the metropolis, the Lagos State government, it's partnering with a payment company to develop a parking payment application that will enhance coordinated parking operations across the Lagos State. So talk to us about this new development. What advantage or impact would this have? First, on traffic in Lagos. That's one, because if you look at some major roads in Lagos, you see trucks blocking some of the major, and they've turned some of these highways to their parking space or lots as well. So talk to us about this. Apart from the fact that it's going to create a coordinated operations, there's also the aspect of revenue generation for the Lagos State as well.
Well, thank you very much for that question, Frank. First of all, let's congratulate the governor-elect of Lagos State, and of course for this initiative, because I have been very critical of the way his administration is handling the issue of transportation, parking, and all that, and of course, because a city like Lagos that is supposed to be a center of excellence has become a center of disaster. Like you have said, trucks parking legitimately on the way, causing environmental hazard, threatening to lives of average Nigerians. People stay in the traffic for 10, 15 hours on a daily basis, and that is affecting productivity of the average Lagosian. With this kind of arrangement, in terms of payment system, we will see a coordinated approach in terms of how people make payment. Because we see a lot of hooligans. Let me use that word.
Hello, Charles. Oh dear. I just wanted you to just land on that thought, and maybe we can wrap up there because, of course, we're done for today. As far as
this is not
taking a look at
the will also be improved.
Okay, you're back now. Please go ahead and let's finish on that.
Yes, I said this will improve the sanity of the average Lagosian, the traffic situation, because the payment system will not be digitalized. Then these trucks that are parking in Swepe, and of course the transporters, will be regulated, and we'll see a better and improved Lagos.
Okay, so I think we just have to leave it there. Thank you, Charles Fakroha, IBrandTV senior analyst. Thank you for your time on the program.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Still to come after the break. Well, we head to equities market as we take a look at the market now. The Nigeria's equities market opened the month of April red, however decreased further by 0.27%. That's about 84 billion naira on Tuesday's trading section. We'll get to that in a moment as we take a look at the sentiment which is now prevalent in the market. Stay with us.